Good afternoon and welcome to the EAF PMS Q&A clinic. So we're here today to answer all your questions on the EAF and PMS that you may have, especially perhaps following our system demo this morning, but anything related to the use of the PLM portal, electronic application form, or related information on PMS. So we have today here also my colleagues Veronica from PMS side and Joao, who can also answer questions from the access management point of view. And you can post your questions through the Slido tool. So you have here on the screen the code for Slido. And of course, very important feature is also the upvoting. So you can upvote for questions asked by other colleagues, and we will answer first those questions that get most votes.
Yeah, you can start sending your questions through Slido using the code we provided you. And now I will share my screen so that we can start answering your questions. So yeah, for now there's one question, which is, if a variation is, for example, modifying a site involved in packaging, will the XML extracted from the EAF PDF contain the old site or the new site in the bundle entry resource activity definition?
So when you're using the variation application form, so normally you would put the present, you would select, let's imagine the manufacturer's details. In the present, you would select the old location, and in the proposed, you would select the new location. So the XML message should contain both.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the Slido code is 2269213. Here.
So perhaps while we're waiting for more questions to be asked, just a few little important reminders. So with regards to our name of the tool, many people still refer to our product as Daddy. So just to clarify, Daddy product was not stopped or discontinued. We just did a simple rebranding, a renaming exercise. So we're actually calling the tool and the product electronic application form. So we occasionally get questions, what happened to Daddy? Why Daddy was closed? Daddy wasn't closed, it was renamed.
Okay. So we have another question on the webinar. So as webinar on National Authorized Products release on Product Lifecycle Management Portal was postponed, when it will happen?
Yes, so indeed, when we announced that the session that was planned for the 8th of June is delayed or postponed, we weren't able to give publish a new date when we will have that session. So we are currently very much busy testing the data of the centrally authorized product. So the actual reason for this delay has nothing to do with the nationally authorized products, but we are doing this split of products and match and merge of the data from XEVMPD and with SciMed data. And because there were some issues discovered in the UAT environment after the previous CAPS run, we had to redo that and fix the issues that we found. That meant that we were not able to start the NAPS product load. We are still doing, actually, just today, we have started to receive the match and merge products for CAPS. So once we have confirmed that that run has fixed all the issues that we found last time, we will be able to then start looking at when we can start the load for nationally authorized products. We also have the PI planning event next week, where we will come together with all the different products and all the different systems, and we will look at the timelines. And after that meeting, we will be in a better position to give a firm timeline when we will be ready to release the NAPs in the system in production, and if there will be any change to the timeline for the user acceptance testing, which will then trigger the transitional period for the mandatory use. So unfortunately, at this point, I'm not able to give you yet when the webinar will happen. It's possible that we may already be able to do a webinar during this summer. It could be that it needs to take place in September, but hopefully by the end of next week, we will have a better idea.
Okay, thank you. Another question, how can I make sure that my EAF will not be invalidated because of a bug? How can I check that the content is in line with what is expected by EMA, like how the packed medicinal products should be displayed?
Yes, that's a good question. So normally, what I would kind of as a rule recommend, the PDF looks almost identical to the interactive PDF EAF. So if you think how you would fill in the interactive PDF EAF, and then of course you don't need to do that exercise, but you would know how you would expect the data to look, how you would fill it in the interactive form, and then you basically when you export your PDF, you just look at the fields, how the data is filled in there. If everything looks correct, you have filled in all the sections that you would normally fill in your interactive PDF. So for example, we have occasionally received forms that where the MAH contact person details have not been filled in, even though it's a mandatory field, but because in the portal those mandatory use rules weren't reinforced, then users did not fill in that section. So if you kind of use the interactive form as a baseline and fill in the web form the same way, then this should normally be accepted. One really important point is to make sure that when you fill in the form, you're doing it in the actual production environment, not in the UAT environment. So do always check the URL that is PLM-portal rather than UAT. And normally the features and functionalities are correct in the production version. So if you go to the UAT version, there may be some issues either with the product, with the connection to the database, or with some of the features, and this can lead then to rejection. Another very important point is to check that the form, once you have exported it and compiled your ECTD package, open the form from the package to see that the XML attachment is present, because we need that to import the data to our database, and also that the form is interactive. Sometimes we receive forms that are non-functional. We can't use the interactive features, and in those cases we may have to reject the forms. So as long as the form works as expected, and it looks like it would if you had filled in an interactive form, normally there should be no reason for EMA to reject it.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a most voted question. Will it be requested to the MAHs to review data on products after their migration in PMS from XCV PD? In case changes are needed, how to do change on the data?
Veronica, would you like to take this? Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So in essence, as communicated already, the results of the data load from XCV to PMS will be then available and displayed via the UI, the product UI, and made available for use for the EAF, as my colleague Christina was mentioning. So not the entire data model will be available at the time the migration will be completed in PMS and also in EAF. But the data that are already visible will be visible via the UI, as we have communicated that you can review them, and in case there is anything that it doesn't match with what has been entered in XCV, he can be raised by a service now as a ticket, labeling clearly PMS and EAF as an incident. This is the main activity that we request, but we also ensure that the industry user, as the data owner of the data loaded in XCVMPD, submitted in XCVMPD, keep up to date and the best quality as possible the XCVMPD product data in order to streamline the quality and facilitate the data loading PMS.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How can I add a EU representative of a device?
So this section is, if you're meaning while you're filling in the EAF application. So currently, this is just a field where you would search the organizational details from OMS, and of course the contact person details or contact details will be filled in as free text fields. So it's very similar to the interactive EAF. So you simply add those information. If the organization is not present in OMS, then you would need to add it into OMS first, and then you will be able to find it from the form.
Okay, thank you. Then a question regarding PMS portal. What changes can we expect related to publishing Word with the current systems, etc.?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if you're asking what's the difference between the data that will be available for public in respect to what will be visible to the user, just please be informed that we are working in as a feature in defining across the entire PMS data sets which attributes can be considered confidential or public information in order to then develop the public view of the product UI. Thank you.
Yeah, someone is experiencing maybe some issues with the audio, but yeah, I think in the recording, you will, if you want to listen again to the answer, we could hear well. So, okay. And then we can also answer in writing in case to some questions, of course. Then next question. Will we still be able to have an attachment for the present proposed table, or would the changes have to be completed in the EAF?
Yes. So this is something that we have been discussing quite a lot with our development team and us as a product owner. So, of course, ideally, all the changes would be completed in the EAF itself, so rather than having an attachment to the present and proposed. We have been working a lot to improve the design of the present and proposed section in the web form. I fully agree with the users. Currently, it is terrible. And when I do my testing, I can fully understand why users would want to use an attachment. So we are going to improve it quite significantly with multiple changes to it, and this would hopefully make it more user friendly and more easy for you to insert the changes directly into the EAF rather than attaching a present and proposed table. Of course, there may be changes that will really do require an attachment because you have large documents and it doesn't make any sense to include everything into the form. But the main direction is that the details of the changes should be in the form itself and not in a separate document.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Will data on medicinal devices also be present in PLM? For example, in case a medicinal product also includes a medical device and there are changes to the medical device.
I can take this question, Christina, if you want. So I think the question is whether the medical device information data will be available in the product UI. So the answer will be is no. As a result of the data load from XCVMPD, these data are not available, so therefore will be empty and will be then required a data enrichment from the user. On that point, we are discussing the processes and we still need to complete the definition of each single data flow and process for submitting any data in the context of the enrichment.
Okay, thank you. Next question, 2 timeline questions. Any plans to release the EAF API soon, fire down, upload? And any high-level timeline when the other IDMP fields will be added to EAF?
Yes, with regards to the first about the EAF API, this is something that we would like to release, of course, as soon as possible, because we know this is something, it's an important feature. Unfortunately, it's not planned for the short term. What we are doing now, we're working hard to enable a copy of the cloning of the application form. So at least you don't need to refill everything when you do a new application form, for example, for the same products or similar application form. However, this is something that in future we will definitely want to implement. We are working hard on the background to create validation rules, and NCAs are preparing their fire download tools. So there are preparatory activities ongoing, but it's not something that would be foreseen, for example, for this year. And then with regards to the high-level timeline for the other IDMP fields, this is what we call the structured data fields. So here we have, of course, a dependency with the product UI team because we're working together, but also we need to implement few other features in the EAF before we can start with the structured data field. So unfortunately, at this point, we don't have a firm high-level timeline that I could share, but hopefully later on this year, when we are more advanced with our planning, we'll be able to launch these high-level timelines.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Next question. About the data missing in XCVMPD but included in PMS, how should be inserted in PMS by the MAH?
So in PMS, as you know, we are working to develop 2 tools. One is the product UI that you most heard all the time, but also the API. Those 2 will be the technology that will allow the user to submit any data, not only the missing one, but any product data into PMS. Regarding the data missing, this is part of the data enrichment process. We are not aiming to change mostly the process for data submission the same way as XCVMPD is occurring. Nevertheless, so will be the industry user. Nevertheless, we are also exploring and considering a proposal which came from the network to submit some specific product data into PMS. This might be the case for manufacturer data, but this is not decided yet. So any discussion is still ongoing on that side.
Okay, thank you. How can I check that the form is interactive as the downloaded PDF is in read-only? I don't understand what I have to check.
Okay, I can clarify that. So basically, when you open the form, so let's imagine you have created your ECTD package and you want to check that you have the XML attachment present and the form is interactive. When you open the form, you can see the blue headings, for example, for the table of contents. And using those blue headings, you can jump around the form very easily. So you click to, for example, section 1 in the table of contents, and the form just jumps in there. So it's a kind of readability feature, but it also enables the file upload to work in our system. So it's quite simple to check. If you cannot easily jump around, so if you're trying to use, for example, the bookmarks, you cannot, but you need to be able to use the bookmarks, and you need to be able to jump to the different sections of the form using the blue headers.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Will for human products the document, like product leaflets, be present on EPAR website, be only updated in public PMS portal as it is now the case on UPD for veterinary products?
So as I mentioned before, this is a feature that we are currently working on. At the time we were defining which attributes among the PMS data model can be considered public or restricted access. So on the matter of the documents, meaning the attachments, there is also a link to the EPI product, which is still part of the Agile. So it's something that we need to explore further, but we do not exclude this possibility to use the public documentation as well.
Okay, thank you.
May I add a comment here to this question?
Yeah,
Please.
Dino Sompas is here,
Yeah.
NPO for the PMS. I just wanted to add, this might be foreseen in the very, very, very far future, but for the moment it is not planned to really submit documents, product information documents to PMS instead of the current established route. So this is something really for a longer time. Thanks.
Thank you, Dino. Then, next question. What about the criteria to migrate products in PMS from Active MPD? If by the country, how can we manage MRP DCP variation application?
So I think this question contains actually two questions. So the migration rules that we have defined for the data load from Active MPD to PMS for both CAP and non-CAPs are defined in the UAG chapter 7. So if you had the chance to open this document, we also explained that based on the type of authorized product, whether it's a CAP or whether it's a non-CAP, but even at the lower level, whether it's a Belgium authorized product or not, we had to define specific rules which can allow us to group the UV codes for the products which have the same data elements. So the information are available in chapter 7. Related to how can manage the MRP and DCP variation applications, I think this is a question that I will revert back to Christina because it's related to the EAF. If you want to comment.
So at the moment, of course, the nationally authorized products, including the MRP DCP products, are not yet available in the PLM portal EAF. This is the NAPS load that we are waiting, and once these products become available, you can then use the form for MRP DCP variations as you would use today's interactive variation application form.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How can I make sure that my EAF will... No, this is the one we answered before, yeah. Then next question. When will be available NP products in the PLM to use for the industry?
So yes, this is what I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, because of the delay in the split and match and merge of the centrally authorized products data from XCV PD with the SciMed data, we had a delay with the start of the NAPS product load. So we don't currently have a firm timeline that I could announce. So next week when we have the PI planning event, we're hoping that we will we can conclude firm timelines for the NAPS release, and we can then communicate them at the week following next.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How can I get a better response when reporting an issue via ServiceNow? Some tickets are open since weeks.
Yes, we are aware that there has been some delays with responses to the service desk tickets, and we are really working very hard to try and allocate the tickets to the correct teams. I think because ServiceNow tool is still relatively new, so occasionally it happens that the tickets get assigned to an incorrect team, and they are then in a wrong queue, and unfortunately the response times can be slightly slower than we would hoped that they would be. If you have an urgent issue and you haven't heard back from us, please, of course, if it's related to an urgent EAF submission, you can always contact us through different channels with your ticket number, and we can see if the ticket has gone missing for some reason.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so questions are over for now. I will start launching a poll to have your feedback on your on this session, and so you can rate it from 1 to 10. And yeah, of course, in case you have another question, we still have one. Yeah. When will it be possible to manage all variations in PLM?
Hopefully this will be sooner rather than later. So we are just introducing an ability to add package for centralized procedure applications. So this will allow the use of the new web form for almost all CAP applications. And we're working very, very hard to include the nationally authorized products into the system. And once they become available in the system, there should be very few limitations to use the forms for all types of variations in the portal. However, these timelines will need to be confirmed after our PI planning event. Once we know a little bit more, and once we have a confirmed data load, and we have seen how the form functions with the larger number of nationally authorized products, we know what other limitations there may be, and we can then design the releases for those issues.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think this is the last question we could respond to, but yeah, we will respond to other questions in writing, of course.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your participation and for the questions.